Welcome back to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. I hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas and New Year's. We're off to a pretty wild start in 2026. We have now, of course, what's happening in Venezuela, a dictator who has oppressed a country and waged war on America is now behind bars, all thanks to our great president, Donald J. Trump. You had the United States troops that carried out Operation Absolute Resolve. These were strikes that were laid on Friday night to clear the path for the helicopters. Now, Maduro, the dictator, the aforementioned dictator, Maduro lived on a military base. And so these troops went in. They extracted him and his wife. This was a 6-minute mission. And then just got the hell out of there. No loss of American life. It was like the most epic thing I've ever heard. Now he is on American soil where he faces court in New York. He has already said that he is innocent. He is not guilty. And he is a decent man. Yes, yes, yes. The man that I'm about to describe to you is just a good and decent and honorable and innocent man. Let me tell you about Maduro. Let me tell you about him. He has been a dictator of Venezuela. He calls himself the president, I think. He's a dictator of Venezuela since 2013. He was reelected in 2019. And now those of you who are listening to the audio podcast would note that I am using air quotes because he was reelected in 2019 and 2024, except it's just that every official around the world admit that he stole those elections and was not actually the valid leader, is not actually the valid leader of Venezuela. And on top of all of that, he, in true communist form, carried out multiple human rights abuses. He jailed his political rivals. He detained people, including women and children. He tortured them with, just the kind benevolent beatings, suffocation, electric shocks. He forced millions of Venezuelans to flee the country because he tanked the economy and put it into hyperinflation. And by the way, when you took to the streets to criticize him, he just brought giant military tanks and ran you over. That's the kind of leader that he was. All right. He is a narco-terrorist who has orchestrated sending massive amounts of drugs to this country in order to kill us, okay? And so this is a man who was not only not good for America, but not good for Venezuela. He was not good for the world. He is not good for the world. You notice he's not dead. We didn't kill him. We just brought him to face the consequences of breaking American law. Now, there are a lot of leftists. This has broken their brains. What little brain cells they had left, it's just broken their brains. And they are trying to claim that Donald Trump is now an interventionalist and Donald Trump is now, it's imperialism and Donald Trump is, who I thought he was America first. Why is he messing with Venezuela? And so I want to play Donald Trump explaining to these numbskulls that this is actually, this position, this whole entire thing is actually America first.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it.
Now, I want to add to President Trump's point about why this is actually America first. And in order to do so, we must address the oil. OK, there are a lot of lefties who I've seen on social media and they're like, this is my favorite. They're like, don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. This is about oil. And I'm like, I feel like Donald Trump in his address to the nation was actually very clear that part of this is going to, he will be addressing the oil situation, because when you extradite a criminal to face the crimes that he committed against Americans on this country, you also get the side benefit of the oil. Okay. So there's no war over oil. We have not entered into an act of war. But oil is to be addressed here, okay? Because this opens oil back up to us. It also opens it up to the Venezuelan people who were, in fact, not benefiting from it. But some of that oil that the leftists want to argue about was actually American companies to begin with. So I don't know if they know the history behind this. Until 1999, American oil companies were operating in Venezuela. And then when Hugo Chavez took office in 1999, he nationalized all of the assets of these foreign oil companies and he seized them. ExxonMobil, ConocoPhillips, he just took direct control over the petroleum industry. He seized all these and he said, this isn't yours anymore. This is ours. And he used its profit as an ATM for the military. So this was actually, if you want to talk about the oil, it actually rightfully was partially our oil, okay? And so Chevron now has been the only American company operating there because the Biden administration issued a license in 2022 that allowed Chevron's joint venture with the petroleum industry in Venezuela to produce and export oil. But this move now paves the way for oil companies to come back in, which would, of course, be huge for the global economy, which obviously will affect positively America. Okay? Because Venezuela has 20% of the global crude oil reserves. You may have thought it was actually Saudi Arabia who was the top of that. No, it's actually Venezuela. It's actually Venezuela. And by the way, who buys this oil? Who buys the oil? Predominantly China. So do you think that it helps if the United States has influence over this oil? Do you think that it helps that while Venezuela was starting to cozy up to China and North Korea, we did what we did? Do you think that maybe this might help? China is up there at the top of the pack. Then, of course, we use the oil underneath them. Then you have Spain and you have Cuba. So it boggles the mind that you would argue that this is not America first when you address the oil. But oil aside, okay, here are the facts of what just occurred. This was not an act of war. We are not at war with Venezuela. We're not at war with Venezuela at all. In fact, if President Trump had just waged war on Venezuela, it would be the worst war ever because instead of killing their leader, they gave him a bottle of water. They gave him earmuffs so he didn't get his ears injured during flight. I mean, look at that. They're making sure he's hydrated. That's not an act of war, you retards. What is that in his other hand? Is it a snack? He gave him the glasses so he didn't, harm his eyes. That would be the shittiest act of war ever. It would be the shittiest act of war ever if Donald Trump was like, we're at war with Venezuela. And you know what? We're going to make sure that you guys aren't poor anymore. And we're going to make sure that you guys get to use your oil. We're going to make sure that you guys aren't run by a dictator who's running you the over in the street if you criticize him. That is kind of wild to claim that this is an act of war when all of these people just got liberated. Okay. And I want to play some of their videos later because I think that they're very, very insightful. Even though the fat, white, liberal possibly gay or bisexual white woman wants to try to lecture all of the brown people about how they actually are oppressed and how this actually is bad for them. I digress. It was not an act of war. It was over in 6 minutes. It was his 6-minute mission. It was an extradition of a criminal back to American soil so he can face the consequences of his own actions. That's what that was, okay? That man is a narco-terrorist who has trafficked drugs into this country and killed Americans, and he should face consequences for that. He has had a warrant out for his arrest since March of 2020, and just like any drug dealer, if you had a drug dealer here in this country who were killing Americans, they should go to jail and they should be brought to trial. He is being treated like anyone else who wants to do that to Americans. And by the way, again, we apprehended him so that he could face our justice system. And we gave him a bottled water. Okay? I don't want to hear it. And I want to just remind all of these leftists who are crying in the streets that an evil dictator was just taken into custody by the coolest military ever. Sorry, I haven't been here a while. I got to get it all out, okay? I'm sorry. All right. But we just did a show, a month ago? It was last month that we were talking about how some of Maduro's former allies were warning America They were warning President Trump that Maduro he already had waged war on us. I'm so sick of this. It's like we retaliate. It's like just like with the trade war. Well, here this is. Former Maduro spy chief's letter to Trump seeks to expose narco-terrorist war against the United States. This reminds me of the trade war. And people are like, oh my God, I can't believe that Donald Trump is imposing tariffs on China and all these he's starting a trade war. It's like, no, he's not. He's like addressing the fact that China already started a war with us a long time ago. This is the same thing applies here. Venezuela already started the war. You know how we know? One of his top narco-terrorist guys is in prison in America right now sent an open letter to Donald Trump expressing his support for blowing up the drug boats. He said Donald Trump was 100% right, okay? This was a 3-star general of the Venezuelan regime under both Hugo Chavez and Nicolás Maduro. He broke with the regime in 2017, and he already pleaded guilty to crimes. He is literally in a United States federal prison. He has no reason to say this right now. And he knows better than any of you leftist retards in the streets, okay? And he said, from his words, he said, I see the need to address the American people about the reality of what the Venezuelan regime truly is and why President Trump's policies are not only correct, but absolutely necessary to the United States' national security. He said he personally witnessed how Hugo Chavez's government became a criminal organization that is now run by Nicolás Maduro, Diosdado Cabello, and other senior officials, and that the purpose, here's the important part, guys, the purpose of this organization, now known as the Cartel of the Suns, is to weaponize drugs against the United States. The drugs that reached your cities through new routes were not accidents of corruption, nor just the work of independent traffickers. They were deliberate policies coordinated by the Venezuelan regime against the United States. You think we did the act of war. The regime has provided weapons, passports, and impunity for the terrorist organizations FARC, ELN, Cuban operatives, and Hezbollah to operate freely from Venezuela against the United States. The regime, I assert, is not merely hostile. It is at war with you, using drugs, gangs, espionage, and even your own democratic processes as weapons. It also goes on to talk about the other ways the Maduro regime is trying to undermine America, including how they organized gangs like Tren de Aragua to terrorize us and take over our apartment complexes. I'm sorry, Margaret, it was only one apartment complex. Or Martha, or whichever one of you asked the stupid question. They only took over one apartment complex. I guess it's all fine. Yeah, the Venezuelan gangs are run by Nicolás Maduro. He's calling the shots. Or he was, until we his ass. Anywho, they took advantage deliberately of the Biden-Harris open border. They sent criminals and spies into this country who that guy says are still here. And he also mentions, I'm just gonna give you what he said, okay? Smartmatic, which is a voting machine that is currently used in the United States. Smartmatic was born as an electoral tool of the Venezuelan regime, but soon derived into a tool to help keep the regime stay in power forever, according to this man. This is what he says. I know this because I placed the head of IT of the National Electoral Council in his position, and he reported directly to me. The Smartmatic system can be altered. This is a fact. This technology was later exported abroad, including to the United States. Regime operatives maintain relationships with election officials and voting machine companies inside your country. This is his words, okay? I do not claim that every election is stolen, but state with certainty that elections can be rigged with the software and has been used to do so. So, again, you tell me if this is a war, if you want to call it a war, who started it and who is simply responding. Okay? And by the way, now you tell me this isn't America first, the Venezuelans can go home. All the Venezuelan refugees, all the Venezuelan illegals who fled to this country, and we're supposed to be like so sad for them because we're like, oh my God, they have an evil dictator who now we love, but we did hate back then, and they have an evil dictator and they have to be here. Actually, they can just go home. They can just go home now, which is also good for our country. It's also good, as I mentioned before, for Venezuelans, which is why so many of them are celebrating across the freaking world. Like, all over the world, they're crying, they're celebrating, they're shooting fireworks. I posted a video and people were like, that's in Florida. Yeah, do you know who has like the greatest Venezuelan refugee population in this country? Florida. There are a lot of them, and they would know the dangers because they fled it. Feel like, well, I mean, well, what is this? What does Venezuela look like? I don't know. Maybe they're too scared to come out of their homes because they're so used to tanks running them over if they protest the regime. Like, the? So when you look at all of the aspects that this affects, this is a win for Venezuelans. This is a win for America. This is a win for the world. And if we get the side benefit of oil, great. I'm all for it. That's great. It was oil that should have been ours anyway. And do you know who agrees with me that this was good for the world? Do you know who agrees with me that Nicolás Maduro is not the rightful president and he should be removed? Do you know who agrees with me? Democrats. Before Donald Trump broke them. So I want to show you, we're bringing all the receipts for how they called for this exact thing to happen until President Trump was the one who did it. And President Trump, they're just broken people. They're not very bright. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.